Hey folks, this is Riker with our first Patreon Q&A video. Thanks for submitting your questions. Let's get right to them. Starting off with questions by Barry Freeman. What do you think is the future of Diablo? Can they maintain interest with occasional DLC like the Necromancer, or will they really have to go to town and make a Diablo 4 sooner rather than later? Considering the time between D2 and D3, do you think we'll have to wait another 10 years for another Diablo game? All these are related questions, so I'm going to answer them all together. In reverse order, the time between D2 and D3 was so great because at some point in D3's development, they completely scrapped the game, fired the team, and started over. So I don't think we have to wait another 10 years for a Diablo 4. I also don't think anything new is coming to Diablo 3 content-wise. I think full force is happening, full development going into Diablo 4 right now. Or, you know, whatever the next Diablo is. Diablo Next, let's call it. And I think that next Diablo game will be the future of Diablo. I think they're going to go with a business model that will enable the sustaining of that game in the longer term through some kind of ongoing monetization. I previously thought there would be a second character pack for Diablo 3, but I now believe that there's going to be nothing major coming to Diablo 3 anymore. Nothing that we pay for, no major content patch either. But I do believe that means we're going to get D4 sooner rather than later. And a big part of that is that they need to keep the Diablo name relevant. Alright, questions from Octavius. What is it like to be famous? I know it's a joke question, but I don't consider myself famous. It's happened sometimes that I've been recognized at a local convention, for instance, by like maybe 1 or 2 people. And it's always surprising when that happens. It's only happened once that just kind of down the street, sort of, I got recognized, and that really threw me for a loop. I was not expecting it, and I was very awkward with the guy. But it was in the summer, I was with Monkisha, we were going for ice cream, we were waiting in line, and the guy ahead of me in line, like, turns around, and basically I say, you know, you're Riker or whatever. I don't even remember, but I did not, I was just so super awkward. It was the first time just getting recognized in my day-to-day life, and I wasn't in, like, PR mode or anything, so it was, I just hope I didn't give that guy, like, a bad impression. Next question, you're on a desert island with no hope of rescue. You have a choice to take Bankisha, the collected works of J.R.R. Tolkien, or a solar-powered laptop with a beta version of Diablo 4. Which do you choose? No question, Bankisha. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. Lord of the Rings was my favorite novel series. Tolkien is what got me into writing. It's what made me want to become a writer. But I've read The Lord of the Rings multiple times, and Bankisha and I could write our own stories. What is the square root of 4,761? The square root of 4,761 is low battery. Can you say my name in a mirror 3 times without getting scared? Octavius. Octavius. What is your take on string theory? I mean, I could write a whole book on string theory, but to keep it brief, basically, my thoughts are that in physics, string theory is a theoretical framework in which the point-like particles of particle physics are replaced by one-dimensional objects called strings. Just my opinion. Overall, I think string theory is good. It's a good theory. What is the Age of Ultron, spoiler alert, 42? Looks like a Hitchhiker's Guide reference. I mean, Age of Ultron is just the Avengers, it's that Avengers movie, right? I'm guessing it's from the comic books, but... Oh, like how old is Ultron? Okay, I see what you did there. Moving on to Bryan Lacy's questions. What is your #1 favorite class in Diablo 3? All of them is not counted as an answer. He knew. If I had to pick one, I guess Demon Hunter. I'm really enjoying the Crusader right now, just because of the Condemned build, but if I had to look at Reaper of Souls as a whole, probably the Demon Hunter. Of your favorite class, what is your favorite build that you like, and why? Multi-shot, I think I'm currently a little bit disillusioned with it only because my multi-shot Demon Hunter is on EU, which is, I've not invested a lot of time in it, so it feels kind of shitty compared to my Condemned Crusader, but overall, I mean, multi-shot is fun because you got a lot of the mobility with the vaulting, and it just shoots out. It's a nice big kind of screen clearing visual effect, And doing a lot of damage to a lot of monsters at once is always pretty fun. Of any stream that you can think of by memory or by clips, what would be your most loved interruption during stream? Most loved interruption. I know what you want me to say. It's the time you got me to choke on that shot. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. I'm sure Bryan can post the details on Patreon in the Patreon comments here, but I forgot what exactly, but he got me to choke on a shot, I'm pretty sure. On to Maia's questions. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? That's a deep question. 10 years. Huh. I mean, ideally, still doing this. The plan has always been, so I've been doing this full time for a year and 3/4 now. It's going to be 2 years, I think, in March, April. And the idea was always, keep doing this full time as long as I could. And then after that, move on to wherever I can move on from there if I can leverage some connections in the video game industry. But I mean, ideally still doing this stuff, making content for you folks. It's just nice to be able to have freedom from, I guess to be your own boss, in a sense, be an entrepreneur kind of thing. In a sense, I do see kind of you folks as my bosses, or as my, I don't know if customers or bosses or whatever is the right term. I guess I'd be the kind of person that if I owned a proper business, I would see my customers as like my bosses, because it's customers, it's patrons, it's bosses, whatever you want to call it. That's you're paying my salary in some way or another, be it just views on YouTube, or be it literally pitching in to help crowdfund a salary. And I much rather this relationship that we have than a relationship with the boss, whereby sort of with the boss it's I'm paying you to do something, whereas with you folks it's you're paying me because I'm doing something. Like, I've worked jobs where I've been paid to produce content, and I don't know, it's not the same. So again, hopefully in 10 years I'll still be doing something whereby we're maintaining this sort of relationship and rapport without the sort of oversight of an employer that serves as a go-between. But who knows what the future has in store. 5 years ago, I would have never thought I'd be where I am today. So who knows where I'm going to be in another 5-10 years. Are you still planning on writing novels, or are you currently working on one? And other very kind words. Thank you, Maia. So I'm not currently working on a novel. I was at one point. That was many years ago. Jeez, it's a lot longer ago than I remember. It was right after college. And that got put on hold so that I could, because I learned more about the novel writing industry. And one of the main things that I learned was that a publisher basically isn't going to promote your book for you. You have to do that yourself. So it helps to have a platform. It helps, one, to get your book published to begin with, and two, to actually sell. If you can go to a publisher and say, hey, I have X followers on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever. So I already have an audience that when I publish this book, I can put this in front of them and maybe they'll want to buy it, as opposed to I have, 2 followers on Facebook. And honestly, I was pretty bummed to learn that, that like half the work is just writing the book and the other half is actually selling it, marketing it. I love being creative. I've always been a creator of some form, and storytelling especially is something that I love. In all forms, I suppose the one that's come most natural to me has been writing. But I mean, there was I ran a webcomic for a couple of years, and my Dungeons and Dragons games are a major outlet for me to tell stories. So I'm 100% sure that I do still want to keep telling stories in some way or another. As my life situation changes, how that storytelling takes place might differ. Might I circle back to getting back to work on a novel one day? That's entirely possible. Do I have current plans right now? There's just so much on my plate right now that it's not on my mind at all. I suppose right now I do have enough creative outlets. My job affords me a degree of creative freedom that is satisfying that need in me. But I mean, a big thing that I wanted to do as well when I was younger was work for a video game company and as a story writer. And that would still be something that would interest me. Also, you know, working for Wizards of the Coast who make Dungeons and Dragons, you know, working on stories there as well. So ultimately, I think it'll really come down to what creative needs I have. And if at some point I'm not able to have some kind of job that is creative, then I'm almost definitely going to get back to novel writing. How do you deal with writer's block or blocks of creativity? That's always a tough one. It's something that all writers struggle with. The blank page is the most daunting thing for a writer. The best way, I don't know if I always deal with it this way, but the best way to deal with it is just to literally plow through it. Just get anything down, because it's easier to rewrite than it is to write. Just put whatever you can, whatever garbage is on your mind, just get something down, because once you've sort of burst that bubble, if you will, you want to sort of, I guess, break the dam, and then all the water starts gushing down. How did you and Bankisha meet? It was summer of 2013. I had recently wrapped up Virtuous Tabletop Season 1 on YouTube, and my buddy Dave, aka Ofris from Twitch chat, whom some of you might recognize by name, was becoming too busy with his master's or PhD at that point to be in Season 2 of Virtuous Tabletop. So I was looking for a replacement, and I didn't know anyone offhand that had the availability or the sort of camera presence. So I was looking into local meetup groups. There was a website, I think Meetup or meetups.com, where people form groups for different interests and activities. So there was a Dungeons and Dragons meetup group. I never really used the site before. I'd been signed up for a few years, but I never actually used it. And so I started looking into the D&D groups and people that were posting in sort of the forums, the threads, and I saw this Bankisha, and I saw her profile. I saw that she was interested in Dungeons and Dragons, joining a game, as well as she expressed interest in YouTube. And I'm like, well, that's perfect. So I reached out to her, and I'll never forget, in her first reply to me, she called me by so my name is CJ Miosi. CJ is a shortening of my full name, but my last name is Miosi. And in her reply to me, she's like, hello, Miosi. Like, she called me by my last name, and it was just, I still tease her about it, but it was like, I guess because she saw CJ and she was like, what, is that a name? Like, what is that? So she's like, the only thing that I can seem to call you by is Miosi. So I was, yeah. So we met through that. We got to talking and, playing games together, playing D&D together, meeting up in real life. Cause she's Montreal local. The meetup groups are for local meetups. Yeah, that's how we met. If you go back, look at Virtuous Tabletop Season 2, you'll see Bankisha. Have you been to Italy? Hint, if not, good place for a honeymoon. I've not. We're considering going to Europe for a honeymoon, maybe visiting a few different regions. I've never been to Europe. It's a little honest, if I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit, worried. Only because of these sort of, like if we're just going to one place, like just Italy or just France, or just Germany for that matter, I'd be a lot more okay with it. I think, it was sort of like the backpacking idea of, just, I don't know. It's uncharted territory for me. I like to be very planned when I'm going into uncharted territory. Like when I go to the States and stuff, like I'm kind of okay with that now, but it's because I've done a lot of research and experience, and like I know, okay, I'm going to be going to this airport and then this hotel. This is where I'm staying. If it's kind of a loosey-goosey, yeah, we're going to like bounce around from here to there. And basically I'm just imagining that we're going to go on some murder bus and get our heads chopped off. That's the paranoia in me. Just we're going to go to Europe and get murdered. That's basically my concern. What is your favorite book? Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's been a long while since I've reread them, but I've read them at least 3 times. I was going to say thrice, which wouldn't be inaccurate, I suppose, but 3 times. In more recent years, though, so Tolkien was my major inspiration to get into writing, but Robert E. Howard, the author of the the Barbarian short stories. His writing, I'd say about 10 years ago-ish, a little bit more maybe, became a major inspiration for me. His writing is so fast-paced and electric, and his ideas are really kind of dark fantasy. And that started to appeal to me a lot more. Tolkien is a wonderful writer, but his writing style is very antiquated. If you today write like Tolkien, no one has patience for that anymore. He's very verbose. He'll take pages to describe a thing. Whereas Robert Howard, it's the action is so intense, his language, his verb usage, it's so full of energy. So I don't know if that makes, my cousin gave me a book of the collected short stories, the collected Conan works of Robert E. Howard. Maybe that's become my favorite book, I don't know. But I definitely still lean towards Lord of the Rings. What is your favorite pizza topping? I'm laughing because of the great pineapple debate. I don't hate pineapple on pizza. I'm okay with pineapple on pizza. I'm not one of those people that hate it. It's not my favorite, but Bunkisha and I have very different tastes in pizza. I'm not gonna say her taste is wrong, but I'm Italian, okay? But, so she likes pineapple and ham. I like most types of pizza. I'm generally not difficult. I like to have pineapple and ham sometimes, and if I'm with Bunkisha, I'll have pineapple and ham if we're getting something together, but it's not my first choice. If I had to pick, like, one type of pizza to have for the rest of my life, it would honestly be an all-dressed, and I think that's like a Montreal colloquialism, the term all-dressed. We use that for everything, like, how do you want your hamburger? All-dressed. How do you want your hot dog? All-dressed. It means the works. I want it with the works on it. And locally, what all-dressed pizza sort of means is literally not with every single topping. It's pepperoni, green pepper, I think mushroom maybe? Basically, it's something more exciting than just pepperoni pizza. I'll eat pepperoni pizza, but it's really not my favorite. I like to have something else. I like to have some kind of vegetable or just more toppings, But I mean, I like vegetarian pizza, I like arrabbiata, I like, meat lovers. I love pizza. I even like anchovies on pizza. I'm one of those weird guys that likes anchovy. Again, I don't love it. I wouldn't have it all the time I have pizza, but once in a blue moon, I'm okay with anchovies on pizza. And what does the fox say? Yip, 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 yip. Questions from David O'Connell. What inspired you the most to begin streaming full time? Losing my job. Yeah, I mean, so I'm a full-time content creator, which is sort of half the time it's making YouTube videos, half the time it's streaming on Twitch. It's stuff I've been doing part-time for a couple of years, and I'd always wondered, is this something that I could do full-time? But I wasn't about to quit my job to try to find out. I wouldn't give up, job security for something like that. But honestly, losing my job was the best thing that could happen to me. It was a very low-paying job. It was a writing job. Unfortunately, there's not too much money in that. I was a senior editor at The Escapist. So it was actually not even too much of a writing job anymore. It was mostly an editing job, a content oversight job. But I went through a rough period. Like, it was pretty depressing to be let go. The site was shutting down. Like, they let go of about 85% of the staff or so. So it wasn't anything personal. It was downsizing, but it definitely, took a toll on me. It was also, this was around the time, I don't know if you remember, Bunkisha and I were living together, and then the place was like flooding and stuff, and we had to evacuate. So it was just everything at once was hitting me. So I'm through a rough couple months, but, pulling out of it, just diving head on into trying to make this work. And it started off as an experiment. It was like, okay, I'm going to give this a few months. I'm going to see if this is going to work. Within a few months, it was showing positive growth, and things, again, thanks to you folks, things have been heading in a positive direction. It's been at least a few months now, at least half a year, probably, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly, that I've been able to do this comfortably full time. There's always a concern, with the waxing and waning of Diablo seasons, and now with Diablo 3 sort of approaching its retirement age, there's always the concern, will I be able to keep doing this full time? I don't know. I could only hope, but I've always been prepared. I've if and when the day comes, it will not be a shock to me. I've always known, I've always been mentally prepared. One day, I will likely have to find something else. One day, this probably will no longer be financially sustainable. But until then, hey, things have been great. And it's all thanks to you folks. Do you think that they could improve on the storyline by reintroducing other powerful demons into it, such as Mephisto, Baal, Lilith, or even Inarius, and some past angels? For a new Diablo game, I absolutely would love to see major players. I'd love to see further exploration of big lore. I do want to see the big evils again. That's why I would really love to see something that is a prequel, because we can go visit all of these interesting important lore characters. I would love to meet Lilith and Inarius. I would love to see Mephisto and Baal again. If they can find some way to even do that in the future, like in a sequel, sure, that works as well. But there's a lot of unexplored territory in the games that they can still pull upon. Do you think they could bring in other areas like the Ubers in Diablo 2 to collect pieces to eventually spawn something else? For instance, maybe these pieces are allowed to drop like primals after you reach a GR70 or something similar. Okay, so we have Ubers in Diablo 3. Things drop from the Key Wardens. You create the Uber events to fight off the existing Ubers. But to be fair, at this point with the power creep, the Ubers are no longer an Uber challenge. I mean, you also have things like if you find a puzzle ring, you can open up a portal to the vault. If you find a bovine bardiche, you can open up a cow level. I think the craziest thing that could be done is something like in Diablo 2. The Diablo 2 Uber event with the selling of the Stones of Jordan. Like, that was something so complex. It really required specialized knowledge to understand how to do that. I think it would be interesting to have something like that, something also more collectively community-driven. Honestly, to this day, I still don't have a solid understanding of how that happened in Diablo 2. You had to sell X amount of Stones of Jordan, and this and that, and how do you know what game it's going to spawn in, whatever. It was pretty convoluted. So I think it could be cool to have some sort of event that is driven by the greater community in some way. Just something to feel more connected to other players. Because that's one thing that the whole, 235 Stones of Jordan sold to vendors. Like, what does this alert mean? It's something communal, right? It makes you aware that, oh, there are other people in other games playing Diablo right now, doing things that are somehow impacting me, maybe? But yeah, I think something interesting could be done in that regard. Alright, PastTiger's questions. What moment from a stream left you absolutely speechless? I think it was the first time I got a $100 donation. This was a couple years back. I basically wasn't really making any money from Twitch. I wasn't partnered yet. I was really just streaming to connect with my YouTube viewers, to connect with you folks, just play some games with you. It started off, I think, to help with power leveling and stuff, and then it was just sort of generally having a good time together. I mean, my memory's a little bit spotty, but I just remember, like bam, $100, and I'm pretty sure it left me speechless. I'm pretty sure it left me speechless. Honestly, anytime I get a big donation, I'm still staggered. But I guess like the absolute first time, I was so staggered that I was literally speechless. What is your favorite stream moment? Favorite stream moment? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that I can pick one moment, but like, just whenever we can just have a good time with people, like have some good laughs, just really, having fun with you folks. I'm not in it for, achievements or things like that. Just, I don't know, trying to go over what might be my absolute favorite. I'm just coming up with ideas of like fun times of like laughing along with you folks. And especially when you come on voice, just because it's easier, but oftentimes, sometimes even just, when we would have like funny, pun exchanges in Twitch chat as well. Like you guys would be typing out, like there was some like a whole pun stream basically. People kept posting all kinds of puns or accent streams, just us having fun together. And funniest moment, I guess that sort of ties into that. I don't know. I wish I had more concrete answers to give you here. Funniest stream moment. I'm thinking the funniest must have happened in some non-Diablo game that I did. Just because it's when I play a game that I've never played before, that's when the possibilities for the funniest moments arise. Just sort of like, and that's why I'll deliberately like not play a game and save it for stream so that we could have these just silly moments. Like, you know, for example, City Skylines. It's like a SimCity game. I'm building my city. I was enjoying the game, and then like at some point, like everyone starts dying, and I'm freaking out. Like, why is everyone dying? And I think, you know, you guys had a laugh there, and I had a laugh, and just sort of catastrophic failure, and these kind of little things. So probably funniest moments are outside of Diablo, just because there's little new to experience in Diablo, but yeah. Alright, lastly from Anyanka, asking, can I come to the wedding? So, funny enough, Bankisha and I have thought about this. Bankisha brought up the possibility of maybe streaming our wedding, so that everyone could attend in some capacity. Yeah, we don't have any concrete plans, but for anything about the wedding, but it's certainly on the table. Besides D3, what game do you have the most hours invested in? So looking at Steam, I'm pretty sure it'll be 7 Days to Die. I haven't really been playing it now for maybe a couple months, but I played a ton of it. I really, really like that game. Other than that, I had an unexpectedly large amount of time in, what is it called? Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2, I really enjoyed that game. That said, I had a lot of hours because back then I was a walkthrough writer, so I was writing the walkthrough for that game, so it forced me to play a lot of it. But even after that, I kept playing it. I started so many different playthroughs. I never played Dragon Age 1, which I think is why I like Dragon Age 2 so much. I feel like people that love Dragon Age 1 hated Dragon Age 2, and people who didn't play Dragon Age 1 enjoyed Dragon Age 2. Yeah, it had its faults, you know, the reused maps and all that. The gameplay itself wasn't the most engaging, but I just loved the story, the characters. I love the type of storytelling in that game. And just seeing all the interactions with the different characters and the different outcomes depending on how you act towards them. It just really, really, I just loved it. So many big dramatic moments. I really, came to care about the characters so much. But that was a long time ago. I mean, there's, other old games, Unreal Tournament 3, I played for years. That was the game that I, at the time, had the most hours invested in. StarCraft 2 after that. But yeah, as for current games, Diablo 3 and 7 Days to Die. 7 Days to Die, again, it's maybe a couple hundred hours over the course of a few months, so that really added up fast. What do you hate most about your job? Ooh. What do I hate most? If there's one thing that I would have to pick that I hate most. Overall, I love what I'm doing, and there's nothing else that I would rather be doing, I think, right now. At least no other job, real job that exists, that I'd rather be doing. But that doesn't mean it's, I love every aspect of it all the time. I think getting shitty comments, on YouTube is probably what I dislike the most. I mean, it comes with the territory. There's nothing I can do about it. You just gotta suck it up. And, so many of you send in so many wonderful comments, and I love and appreciate y'all so much. For whatever reason, I think it's just kind of human nature that you tend to focus on the negative, and, it's always tough. But you gotta roll with it, you gotta move on, you gotta not feed into it. Sometimes I do, and I really try as much as possible not to reply to douchebags, just because I can't reply to any comment anymore. I used to. There was a time when I would reply to literally every YouTube comment. It got to a point where I just couldn't anymore. Otherwise, that would be literally all I would be doing every day. I would have zero time to produce content. I would literally just be replying to comments. So I had to make a choice at some point that unfortunately I could reply maybe to a couple comments per video, but I can't reply to everything. And that makes me sad, but I wish there were more hours in a day. I wish there were more days in a week. Time. If there's one thing that I can wish for, it would be time. Time to do all the things that I want to do. I want to make more videos. I want to do more streams. I want to reply to more comments. I want to do more Patreon things. But there's just so little time in a week, in a day. But yeah, so, you know, if I'm not going to reply to every comment, then I especially shouldn't reply to the shitty comments, because, you know, what message am I showing here? Like, if I'm gonna acknowledge someone's comment, I'd rather it be someone who sends in, you know, constructive feedback, or says something positive, or engages in a conversation, rather than someone who's just being destructive and unhelpful. But, you know, it's always your instinct to want to go defend yourself. So if there were one part of the job that I'd be happy to do without, it would be, I guess, dealing with that. Just the negativity. Why did you decide to go with a career so vastly different from what you went to school for? So, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Earth and Planetary Science. Obviously, I'm not making use of that right now. I was actually, when I was working for The Escapist, I was the senior editor for movies and TV and science and technology. So, my background in science lent me, I guess, the credentials to be able to oversee the science and tech section. But I mean, overall, I've always been creative. I've always known from youth that I was creative. But I was always afraid of being a starving artist. Be it literally art, drawing, or writing. And I knew that I did not need any degree to be an artist or a writer. Education is always important, but I literally mean a degree, a diploma. Like, there are some jobs, like if I want to be a scientist, they're not going to be like, well, I see you've studied a lot on Wikipedia and as a hobby, so yeah, we think you have the credential. No, like, you need a literal diploma. Whereas there's no job, no honest, proper, good job for an artist or a writer that are going to want to see your diploma. They're going to want to look at your portfolio. They're going to want to look at your years of experience. So I knew that in that regard, I could always kind of get by. But I wanted to have something to fall back on. I wanted to have something stable, a safety net, if you will. And I'd always done well in science. So throughout my scholastic career, I'd kind of always aired towards the options that kept the most doors open for me. And at least what I was told was that science, you know, go into science, and then from there you can always go into something else. But then if you go into something else and I want to go into science, it's a lot more difficult. So I stuck with science until eventually I was able to pick kind of what branch of science. But I knew that I never wanted to work as a scientist. That even with a degree in science, even if I wanted to work in science, I would have rather been in entertainment science. Edutainment, if you will. Like, I would have loved, you know, back then I was like, man, like, it would be so cool to be on a science TV show. The aspects of science that I like are sort of making science fun and interesting for people, not I'm going to do research for you. Like, I did a, you know, a 1-year research project on meteorites where we built an apparatus to dissolve meteorites in acid to extract isotopes of sulfur in order to try to test some hypothesis and whatever. And as I'm doing this stuff and learning this stuff, like, it's all just dull to me. But it was only really when I was getting my degree that I was realizing, hey, some of these people actually seem to enjoy doing this. I just thought, well, no one enjoys doing science work. They just do it because it needs to be done. But no, I started to realize, wait a minute, other people are literally enjoying this. And I'm not. I don't want to work in this. I will because it's a good job. It's, you know, geology at the time, like, the big companies were literally coming to our classes and trying to hire, like, first-year students, because it was a booming field. It's very cyclical, geology, but, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted to get some degree in something that I can find a stable job in, and what interested me the most was studying science. I enjoyed learning about science. I don't in any way regret getting my degree, but it was always sort of a fallback plan. And, like, one thing one of my oldest friends tells me is, like, people don't get a degree in science as a fallback plan. Like, it's a bit of work to get a science degree for a fallback plan, but whatever. Yeah, so I think I'm at the point now where it's been too many years. I don't think I'll be able to get a job in geology, but I also think I've accumulated enough career experience in other stuff that I could get a job in other stuff. Not one that would pay as much as a geologist, but I certainly would be okay with going back to working as a science writer. Again, kind of what I was doing at The Escapist, where I got to write articles about the fun side of science. If you can live a day as any character from the Diablo universe, what would it be? Any character from the Diablo universe. Not Tyrael, because his stomach feels strange. Not Lorath, because he never gets the chick. Not Cain, because he's dead. Not the blacksmith, he lost his wife. Kadala seems to have a pretty good life. I mean, I'd hate to be Kadala, but... I mean, okay, let's think about it. We're dealing with a medieval-level society. Being rich would afford you the most comforts. I'm presuming that Kadala is rich. She somehow has all of these items to sell you for blood shards, whatever that is. I don't know. I mean, if you have the Nephilim at your mercy, you gotta be doing something right, so I guess I gotta go with Kadala as much as I hate her. Boxers or briefs? Boxer briefs. Can you drive a stick shift? Will you teach me how? I was taught... so when I got my driver's license, I learned on a stick shift. That was many years ago. I've not driven stick since then. But I remember my very first driving lesson. And, like, I had never practiced with my dad or anyone. Like, this was, like, I just went to a teacher. It was École de Conduite Mario Enzo. Mario Enzo Driving School. It's like these two old Italian guys. And I just sit in the car with him, and he's like, okay, you know, go here, turn here, get there. He, like, my first day driving, he takes me, like, on the highway into downtown Montreal. I'm just, like... thrown to the wolves immediately. Like, trial by fire. I think I still kind of remember, I can probably figure it out-ish. Maybe with a quick Google reminder, refresher course. I know some guys, like, will swear by stick shift, like, you just feel the car better or whatever. I don't know, I don't like to have my mind constantly engaged in the operation of the vehicle. I'm someone who likes to kind of daydream a lot. That's probably not a good thing to say while I'm driving. But because I'm very creative, I'm just always kind of thinking of story ideas. And anytime I could afford some amount of kind of downtime for my mind, that's where my mind tends to drift. So, like, as I'm, you know, after seeing Bankisha as I'm driving back home, I'm like... If other drivers would see me, they'd think I'm crazy. They probably have. Like, I'm talking out loud to myself, like, in character, like, coming up with dialogue for my Dungeons & Dragons games. So, the fewer things that I have to, deal with in the car, the more I could, pay attention to the road, yes. What's your favorite movie? So my first favorite movie was The Matrix. Then, that was 1999, right? Then I think Lord of the Rings. Or, sorry, no, my first favorite movie series was Star Wars. The original trilogy. The prequels really soured Star Wars for me. I didn't even see the third prequel until years after it released. And I was a huge Star Wars fan as a kid. Like, I'd be drawing little Star Wars drawings, and I remember, like, for my cousin's birthday, I drew him, like, a whole Star Wars comic. But yeah, so originally probably, yeah, Star Wars, The Matrix became my favorite movie for a while, Lord of the Rings trilogy, then the movie 300 became my favorite movie for a while. What's my favorite movie today? I guess Pirates of the Caribbean as well became my favorite movie for a while. If I had to pick one, though... I think similarly with The Matrix, the sequels kind of ruined The Matrix for me. And I guess the sequels to 300 kind of ruined 300 for me. I have no more favorite movies. All my favorite movies have been ruined. Have you ever met Celine Dion or Shania Twain? I feel like all Canucks have met one or the other. I feel like you're maybe asking this as a joke, but I do have an answer for that. Did I ever meet Celine Dion?
We met her when we went to that place for those...
Okay, wait, hold on. Start the story over. Without mentioning her until she comes up in the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so just start the story over.
Okay, so we're at the place where they make blinds. You were a child. You were young. And I'm going through the aisles trying to choose your blinds in your room. Are you recording this?
Yes.
Why?
Just the audio.
And all of a sudden, there was Sam and Nikki. And Sam goes, I think that's Celine Dion. So I go, what? I gotta go see. I'm gonna ask her. So I looked at her and I go, you're Celine Dion? And she goes, yes, shh. And then she saw you and she says, so cute.
How old was I?
Maybe 4 or 5.
Oh, I wasn't in a crib? Sorry, in a stroller?
No, because we were doing your blinds for in your room. Because before that you had the baby curtains. So we did those aluminum blinds, the red ones, remember? Maybe 2 or 3 at the most. Between 3 and 5. I can't tell you exactly. I think it was between 3 and 5. And that was that. I wasn't even a big fan then, but I was excited. And she was choosing her curtain because she has a house here in Quebec, in Montreal.
So you only became a big fan of her after that?
It was really after, yeah. Yeah. I liked her. I liked her because I saw her in a few talk shows. I was there, I like that girl. Like, she was singing more French songs than English. And then when she started to go on the Oprah show and started to talk, that was much later.
What did she say about me?
She said you were so cute when you were. Everybody used to say you were so cute.
Okay. All right, so that's that. Thanks so much for the questions, everyone. I guess we'll do another one of these next month if anyone has any further questions. But yeah, thanks for sending in your questions. Thanks for watching. And as always, thanks so much for your support. I super appreciate you folks.